This State Champs digital presentation of the football early signing period is presented by Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare. How are we doing, everybody? We are back with another State Champs digital presentation. This time we're discussing the football early signing period, which takes place December 19th through the 21st. On this program, we will discuss our top 10 expected to put pen to paper, also a top 11 of who are still uncommitted. Later in the program, Lawrence Technological University head coach Jeff Duvendeck is going to join me for a little football recruiting 101. We'll play a little frequently asked questions that Coach Duvendeck has received over the years. So that, if perhaps you have a child that might have a shot at the gridiron at the next level, that's information that might be helpful to you. But first, joining me in studio is the man himself, our managing editor at StateChampsNetwork.com, Matt Mowry, and the soothsayer himself, Scott Bernstein. Good day, gentlemen.
Good day. Love talking recruiting. That's my bread and butter, man.
I know it is. And on your screen is the king himself, the world-renowned recruiting guru, 24/7 Sports, Alan True. Hello to you, Alan, and thanks for your contributions all season.
Thanks for having me again, guys. I don't know about world-renowned, but I'll take State of Michigan.
Well, you know, we'll just throw it out there.
I call him the godfather of college recruiting in the Midwest.
So there you go. Pick your adjective. All right, before we get into our list, Alan, this is the second year, I believe, that the early signing period has taken place. Now, for those who might not understand why this was necessary, why do we have this now instead of athletes waiting for the traditional signing day, which is the first Wednesday in February?
I think a lot of kids and high school coaches asked for it, and it was a way for kids to not have to deal with recruiting over the holidays and into the month of January. If you know where you're going and it's December 19th and you want to just have a great Christmas and a great New Year's or whatever it is that you celebrate during that time of year, you can go ahead and sign, put pen to paper, and be done with it. It allowed kids to sort of just be kids once they get into that second semester of high school. And then if you're a kid that isn't ready, you still have the option to wait till February.
Doesn't it also kind of, this trend of kids wanting to enroll in January, does that play a role in it at all?
Well, those kids were always still able to sign early or you know, make it happen to where they could enroll early, but it does make it a little bit easier for those guys as well. So all in all, I think it's a positive role for the kids, and some other minor changes have happened over the last year or so in order to make it even more friendly for the kids who want to sign early.
All right, well, we got a lot to get to. Let's get into the top 10 guys who are expected to sign early. The fellas have been given their homework on who to talk about. Let's start with the first guy on our list, the 6'6", 285-pound, five-star offensive lineman, Logan Brown from East Kentwood. Allen, where is he off to, and what is he projected to do at the next level?
Well, he's going to Wisconsin, which may be a little bit unusual for the #1 guy in the state of Michigan. I don't remember the last time the #1 prospect went to the state or went to Wisconsin. But if you're an offensive lineman, there's not many places you can go that are better. He's 6'7", 290 pounds, extremely flexible. I mean, he looks exactly like how you want a left tackle to look. And I think when you look at the Badgers this year, their left tackle is a high school quarterback that they trained. That was 225 pounds that they trained into. Now he's a projected first-round pick. So I think Logan looked at that and said, they can do that with him. Wonder what they can do with me, but extremely talented. I think it's a really good year in the state of Michigan. You could have had a number of guys #1. So for him to come out on top there, I think that tells you what kind of a talent he is.
No doubt. The second guy on our list is a similar behemoth of a man, 6'4", 300-pound offensive tackle from Belleville, Devontae Dobbs. Allen, another guy going to the Big Ten.
Yeah, headed to Michigan State, and he's the top guy in their class, one of the top recruits that they've signed, really, since the internet's been tracking and ranking recruiting prospects. He's an outstanding prospect, an Under Armour All-American, a kid who's been on the recruiting radar since his freshman year. Could have gone a lot of places, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, just about the whole country was after him, stays at home, and is going to play for the Spartans. Not maybe quite as tall as Logan, so some people think he might be able to slide inside, but he's got versatility. He has experience at tackle, could play guard, but either way, we project him as a future major impact guy for the Spartans.
Agreed. We turn to Scott Bernstein now from West Bloomfield. He too is Big Ten bound, 4-star outside linebacker where he is projected to play, although he's certainly not limited to 6'2", 200-pound Lance Dixon.
This Penn State bound, just a freak of nature, a thoroughbred of an athlete, a specimen sideline to sideline. You know, he checks all the boxes for what you want. He's the future of the outside linebacking position: size, speed, strength, intelligence, versatility. He had something like 250 tackles combined over the last 2 years. He's the type of guy that is a skill set, or has an offensive linebacker skill set, but the mindset of a middle linebacker, and that kind of speaks to his gridiron IQ. He's been playing that viper spot where he's kind of a hybrid between a safety and a linebacker. Just very talented. He's a U.S. Army All-American. He's going to head out to Texas after the first year to play in that game, and I just love everything about Lance Dixon.
Yeah, he's great. Another gentleman who spent a good deal of time in the Mr. Football race was another Belleville product in Julian Barnett, a four-star athlete who was great at receiver for the Tigers, 6'2", 189 pounds, and the trend continues with guys playing Big Ten ball. Matt Mowry, what say you about this guy's future?
Yeah, like you said, very long and lanky, and I think he's going to be, it's a question if he's going to play receiver or corner at Michigan State. He could play either. Very long and lean, 6'2", 189 pounds. When he was healthy, he was hampered a little bit by, I believe, a leg injury mid-season. But when he was healthy, he was one of the most electric, both return men and receivers in the state. They had so many weapons there at Belleville, they kind of had to pick their times to use him. But when they used him, it was effective, and he made huge plays for them.
The Belleville bank of recruits, who we will see on Saturdays for the next several years, is as stocked as Mother's Pantry before the holidays. Three-star inside linebacker Marvin Ham is 6'1", 217 pounds. And Scott, this guy's going east.
Yeah, he's going to Boston College. This kid, he hits like a sledgehammer, and he's got a tireless motor, high energy, great instincts, the type of player that's been the heart and soul of that Belleville, in the middle of that Belleville defense the last couple of years, has helped with that Belleville resurgence back to kind of being a state power, knocking on the door at Ford Field. He is the type of guy that I think projects very solidly at the next level, a kid that can hit the ground running and play early. He's got a pro pedigree. His dad, Marvin Ham, senior, played in the league, played for the Carolina Panthers in the mid-90s, and I think Marvin Ham has that same type of upside.
Yeah. Alan, another outstanding prospect from the East Kentwood system is Mazie Smith. He is a defensive tackle, 6'3", 290 pounds, and as the Michigan Wolverines are expected to lose some linemen early to the draft, they will get a four-star Smith who gets a chance to go right in and compete for a starting job.
I think he can at least compete for playing time. His head coach, Tony Kimbrough, when I first asked him about him, said he's built like a refrigerator, and that's in a nice way. And, we haven't had a ton of defensive tackles at this level come out of the state. Jonathan Hankins, I think, was one of the last, and that was quite some years ago. So this kid is big, physical, explosive, athletic. I mean, they even stood him up at times this year, played him on the edge, but he's definitely an inside guy at the next level. Like you said, immediate playing time available for him there in Ann Arbor. I think he fits as a defensive tackle in their scheme. And like you said, a couple of guys leaving early for the draft in Ann Arbor. I think you might see him on the field early.
Michigan hit the town of Paw Paw to recruit an offensive tackle who stands at 6'4", 273 pounds. Alan, talk about this four-star talent.
Yeah, Carson Barnhart kind of blew up around this time last year because a lot of schools had a chance to come in and see him play basketball. And it was actually the way that he ran the floor. He was averaging a double-double at that point, and his competitiveness that caused some schools to offer. And he was playing tight end and a wing T as a junior. And I think schools looked at that, projected it ahead, looked at some guys that had previously done that. Eric Fisher comes to mind as a high school kind of tight end, different kind of athlete that they moved to the offensive line. And they projected that ahead with Carson. So he got a ton of offers in the winter. He's off to Michigan. I know that they think he can play tackle. He can play guard as one of the top guys in their class. I would not necessarily sleep on him possibly challenging early. We saw Jalen Mayfield come in last year and at least kind of maybe rattle the guys ahead of him a little bit and push for time in the two deep. I think Carson can do the same.
Right on. Back to you, Matt, for number 8 on our list and the runner-up to our first ever state champs Anvil Award. 4 stars, offensive tackle, 6'5", 355, Anthony Bradford from mighty Muskegon. Is he staying in state?
He is not. He's actually going to the Deep South. He's going to LSU, which is a rarity for around here. You don't get a whole lot of recruits from Michigan going to LSU. But if Mazie Smith is a refrigerator, this dude is an aircraft carrier because he's just enormous. If you saw Muskegon play this year, that line was huge. All 300 pounds across the front. He was the big one on the right side, just an absolute road grader. And if they needed yards, they went right a lot of times. Stats I got from the Muskegon camp, 83 pancakes this year, 0 sacks allowed, and averaged out at 93% blocking grade. It's just, he's an absolute behemoth. He might kick inside. A lot of recruiting sites have him listed as a guard, but LSU's got a 5-star guard coming in Cardell Thomas from Louisiana. So if they both kick inside, that would be just an enormous middle of the line.
Right. LSU trying to get back as a player in the SEC. So let's go to the Flint area for someone I think we all believe is another great talent. He was great at tight end, but it appears his future, at least initially, is a strong side defensive end. 6'5", 240 pounds from Carman Ainsworth, 3 stars. Michael Fletcher, is he staying in the mitten?
He's staying in the mitten, and he's not going very far down I-69 to Michigan State. He's a guy who doesn't have a ton of football experience. He was primarily a basketball player, and kind of he and his brother both got talked into playing football. He's one of those guys that Wayne Fontes always used to talk about, the pass rushers that blot out the sun, and he is that at 6'5", 240. He's got all kinds of athleticism, still plays basketball. He's ranked the number 11 player in Michigan, ranked as a 3-star, and they're bringing in a couple of local Michigan defensive ends because they're also getting from Zeeland East Adam Berghorst, who's a 2-sports star. So they theoretically could have 2 guys lined up on the outside next year once Kenny Willick uses up his eligibility. But both of these guys can rush the passer, and Fletcher, you could see that all season long, just a huge wingspan, eating up blockers and ball carriers.
Right, so Spartans hoping to continue to keep getting after it on defense. We'll finish with Scott Bernstein and another West Bloomfield product. We've seen Trey Mosley do some great things in his playing career for Ron Bellamy's Lakers. Like Bellamy, Mosley is a wide receiver, 3 stars, 6'2", 180 pounds. Bellamy locked him into Michigan, right?
No, he's going to Michigan State.
Oh.
Ron Bellamy played at Michigan and played in the NFL, but was a receiver, has been a great mentor to Trey Mosley. Yeah. This guy has primetime playmaker written all over him. He is a home run threat on every single snap, just a chunk yard specialist. I think he averaged like 28, 30 yards per catch for his career. Every time I went out and saw this kid, he's catching 50, 60-yard touchdowns. A smooth route runner with very soft hands, fleet-footed, a type of guy that isn't afraid to go across the middle. Just like I talked about with Marvin Ham over at Belleville, I see Trey Mosley playing early at Michigan State, having the type of impact, or maybe close to the type of impact that we saw maybe Cody White have a couple years ago coming out of Walled Lake Western.
Yeah, they could use a little help at receiver, no question. So that is our top 10 guys who are signing early. That is next week, actually. Alan, do we expect all of these guys to graduate early and join their respective universities in January?
Not all of them, no. A handful of those guys on the list will. I know Trey is going to go up to Michigan State, but I'm not entirely sure on the rest. I know Logan's going to stick around. Some of the guys that do spring sports, like he throws, some of those guys are going to stick around and finish out high school.
Okay, cool. Let's get into the top 11 uncommitted guys as of December 12th, that is, which is when we film this. So some of these guys are decommits and have opened their recruiting back up. We'll find out who's hot on the trail to land these guys. Matt Mowry, we will start with you for our number 1 guy, and that is Warren De La Salle's Josh DeBerry, an outstanding two-way athlete. He's being recruited as a defensive back, 6 foot, 165 pounds. He's a 3-star prospect.
Yeah, and he is, as you mentioned, he is a two-way player, played a lot of receiver for them and was an electric both receiver and return man for them, but he seems to be kind of projected toward corner. He's another guy who's long and lanky at 6 foot and 165 pounds. He's got offers from a lot of different places. He's got Wake Forest, Northwestern, Ball State, Buffalo, Cincinnati, but he's kind of played this whole process slowly, and as he's played and, kind of kept his options open, he's kind of been accumulating more offers, and I don't know if he's waiting for one in particular or if he's, just kind of seeing how everything plays out, but that's one of the advantages of the early signing period. Once guys come off the board and then teams kind of see, okay, well, I still need this, he may pick up an offer or two, if he waits past next week. Over the holidays, you might pick up a couple of offers.
Okay, we'll stay with you, Matt, and talk about Canton's strong side defensive end, Darius Robinson, 6'6", 250 pounds. I've seen him play several times in person, strong. He's quick. He's got a high upside, right?
Yeah, very high upside. And he's another guy who's very, very tall, 6'6", 250 pounds, kind of blots out the sun. He's a guy who kind of already what we just talked about with DeBerry, already kind of got that because he's got a ton of offers, but ended up picking up a Michigan offer late after Belleville defensive end Tyrese Woods decommitted, and so that kind of opened a slot there with Michigan and picked up an offer from Michigan. I don't know if he's leaning toward that, but that certainly is probably enticing for him.
Absolutely. Allen True, Brock Horn can run the ball. He can also stop the run from the linebacker position. I remember seeing him at Romeo with those long Samson-like locks. 24/7 has him a 3-star. Where's Horn's stock right now?
Well, he's an interesting one because he's got a lot of full scholarship offers. Some MAC schools, Iowa State had offered him. He thought at one point he might pick up some Big Ten scholarship offers. That didn't end up happening. He's also a great student, so he's got some Ivy League and some Patriot League opportunities from some really good schools who aren't full scholarship type programs. And then he's got a preferred walk-on offer from Michigan, which is intriguing to him because he grew up a Michigan fan. It's in the state. He would have a chance to possibly play linebacker or fullback. And you've seen some of those guys do really well for Michigan recently. So he has an interesting decision to make, maybe more so than any other guy on this list, because he's kind of juggling between academic opportunities, walk-on opportunities, and full ride scholarships.
It's not a bad place to be, no doubt about it. A lot of options. Another wide receiver from West Bloomfield, Allen, is Tyrone Broden, still uncommitted, 6'4", 172-pound. Who's coming after him?
Well, initially last spring, he blew up a little bit when schools came in and saw Trey and saw who's a 6'5" other guy over there. And he got some offers, Kentucky, Indiana, some big Power 5 offers. However, some of those schools have filled up at those spots. So I think right now it's looking like the MAC. I know that Miami, Ohio has come up and recruited him hard. Buffalo's recruiting him hard, Bowling Green and some of those schools. So I would look for him to probably end up in the Mid-American Conference, although it could be any number of those schools right now. He's still figuring it out.
Ormondale Dingle from Cass Tech is 6'2", 190 pounds, listed as an athlete, decommitted from Central Michigan. What's up with him?
Well, the coaching change happened there at Central Michigan, so he and a couple of his teammates opened things back up. A couple of his teammates have since then made other decisions or started committing other places. Daquan Finn, who was at King, committed in the same class. He's committed to Toledo. Kyron McKinney-Harper, he took an official visit to Toledo. So I think Toledo's going to be a player for Dingle. I think he's going to wait and see if anything else comes through. He also had some Power 5 offers, but I think those schools may be full right now as well. But Cass Tech gets a lot of traffic this time of year. Some other things may materialize. Otherwise, I think the Rockets and some other MAC schools will be right there in the running for him.
Another Cass Tech product who has decommitted this time from Eastern Michigan is outside linebacker Devin Nicholson, 6'3", 205. What schools are in on Devin, Scott?
Well, I think that Devin Nicholson is, a true supersonic sleeper special, the type of guy that just has an upside that's on the moon. I'm predicting that he's going to end up at Missouri. That's a school that's coming in on him really fast and furious since the decommitment from Eastern Michigan. This is a guy that's rangy, he's long, he's fast. He's a real workhorse, consummate competitor, type of guy that isn't flashy, but just picks up the work pail, goes to work, punches the clock, and at the end of the day, you kind of look at the stats and you're like, oh wow, this kid's a lot better than we thought he was. He's the type of kid that is going to be just as good covering, in coverage than he is going after the quarterback in blitz packages. I think he had 70 tackles as a junior, upped it to about 75, 80 this year. I think that he'll be really good if he lands with the Missouri Tigers.
Farmington strong side defensive end Donovan King is still looking for a college home. What are you hearing about Donovan, Allen?
Well, he had an injury this season, and so that's affected his recruitment some. A lot of schools really liked this guy, though. He was, Scott named Nicholson one of his super sleepers there. For me, Donovan's one of them. You don't hear about him around the state much. Very athletic wrestler, but he's got another one that's kind of an interesting decision because of the injury. I think some schools have backed off, but here the GLIAC schools are really hot on his trail, and there may be a Big Ten type school who's willing to gray shirt him or give him a walk-on, let him get healthy, and then put him on scholarship from there.
Matthew Granblank's Cortez Tolles, 6'3", 180 pounds, defensive back. What say you about Mr. Tolles?
Well, he's got that, as we've talked about with a couple of the defensive backs, that length that is kind of in vogue at the corner position now. He's a 3-star prospect. He's the number 49 in Michigan. 171st cornerback in the nation. He's one of those kids, again, from the Flint area, and you can imagine why kids in that area identify themselves more as basketball players sometimes than football players. He kind of thought he was going to be a basketball player until a new coaching staff with Clint Alexander came in and said, hey, we can get you some scholarships in football. He's got 4 offers right now that I know of: CMU, Bowling Green, Cornell, and Morgan State. But he could be another one who benefits from the early signing period to, kind of pick up some more offers early on. A lot of times he noted to me early in the season, teams were shying away from him and going at the other side where they've got Miles McNeil, who's also probably a D1 level cornerback who's a junior. So they were kind of picking on him a little bit to their own detriment. So it was kind of a pick your poison with Grand Blanc, but he's another kid who could pick up another offer or two down the road here.
Detroit Catholic Central as a tight end they like to throw to a lot. 6'6", 225 pounds. You like this guy at the next level, Scott?
Mike Harding, just a natural athlete, a quintessential grinder, a type of kid that is never going to take any plays off. He's got great hands, great with the jump balls. But, honestly, I could see him landing at college and transferring over to the defensive end. Being a pass rusher. This year he played on the defensive line for the first time. I think he had 8 sacks. Just really took to it like a fish to water. Right now it looks like Toledo, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan are the 3 top schools coming after his services. I predict him landing in the MAC, and whoever gets him, it's got themselves quite a talent.
Yeah, I agree. Kyron McKinney-Harper is another Cass Tech guy who, like Dingle, decommitted from Central Michigan. You guys have him as a 3-star athlete, Alan, 6 foot, 183 pounds. What are his new prospects looking like?
Well, he just took an official visit to Toledo. I would favor them right now. I do think some other schools are coming in after him. He may be a kid that chooses to wait to sign. We talked about some of the guys that can wait into January. Maybe some more schools come after him, especially some of these schools start to settle in as far as coaching changes. I know prior to last season, Louisville had been recruiting him hard. Now they got a new coach, so maybe he comes back around on that. But I think as it stands, Toledo's the only school he's taken an official to since he's decommitted, so I would favor the Rockets at this point in time.
All right, finally, we go to Scott to finish up. We wanted to put an 11th guy on the list because Madison Heights, Madison quarterback Austin Brown was all set to play baseball and football at Marshall. 6 foot, 180-pound quarterback who guided Madison Heights Madison to the state finals before losing in a crazy, very high-scoring finale. He was a Hungry Howie's Mr. Football finalist. Is he just a football prospect now?
Well, I think he's still, keeping options open. He had committed to go to Marshall, had committed to accepting a baseball scholarship at Marshall, and was going to walk on the football team. I think now he's recalibrating and thinking that football should be his #1 sport. I call him the Drew Brees of the MHSAA. Right. This guy is, small in stature, but a huge heart. Just a big playability by the boatloads, just surgical in his ability to take apart secondaries. This year he expanded his game and became more of a rushing quarterback, a guy that can beat you with his feet. In terms of where he's going to land, I know that there's some talk at Marshall where the baseball program has gone over to the football program and said maybe you should offer him a scholarship for football, and we can kind of get the 2 for 1. I know that he was really interested in Central Michigan, hoping to fill that slot where DeQuan Finn had left, but Central just came in with an offer to Brighton's Will Johns just yesterday, so I don't know if that affects it. I know that the offers that he does have right now out of the MAC, he's got Miami of Ohio, Ball State, and Akron, I believe. And then in the Ivy League, he's got Cornell and Dartmouth. So, he's a guy that's got really good grades. He kills it in the classroom just like he does on the gridiron. And I think whoever snags him is going to be getting someone that could really do a lot of damage if you give him the opportunity to go under center.
All right. I want to thank Matt Mowry, Scott Bernstein, and Alan True for providing all of this amazing insight today. The early signing period is December 19th through the 21st. Be sure to follow Alan True on Twitter at Alan True, TRIEU, for all the latest and breaking recruiting news. And, of course, follow us on all of our State Champs social media platforms.
I'm on the Blue Devil football team, and that's a great place to be because other colleges wouldn't let me be both a football player and a nursing student. And just because I'm a dog on the field doesn't mean I can't take care of people. And man, do I love people. The small class size at LTU give me awesome access to my nursing professors. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
We are moments away from speaking with the head football coach at Lawrence Tech, Jeff Duvendeck. But before we do, a bit of advice for all you parents and coaches out there when it comes to recruiting. Your child or athlete's grades are very important. Best thing you can do is educate yourself on what's required. Mike Kostoff has made a career of trying to school up parents on what they need to know. And I asked Mike if he could give me his top 5 things parents should know when it comes to recruiting. Okay, first, be a student first. Recruiting begins the first day of 9th grade. Number 2, a 3-point GPA or higher increases the recruiting opportunities greatly, especially when you're looking for financial assistance at the NAIA and the NCAA D2 and D3 level. Number 3, know the specific academic requirements. Your classes, the NCAA core, your cumulative GPA for both the NCAA Division I, Division II, and the NAIA levels. Number 4, your junior year SAT, ACT score must qualify with the NCAA Division I and Division II core GPA sliding scale. Be an athlete. Number 5, commit to high school teams and attend summer camps on college campuses in front of college coaches. Mike Kostoff has written a book with all kinds of great insight for you called Win All 4. For more information, go to his website, TotalStudentAthlete.com. Mike will be a guest right here in studio to talk more about academics when it comes to recruiting on our National Signing Day show in early February. Joining me now is the head football coach at Lawrence Technological University. The Blue Devils just completed their first season since World War II, I think. This was an exhibition season in which LTU went 5-3. The full NAIA season kicks in next fall, and the man who is overseeing all the recruiting efforts is Jeff Duvendeck. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Lauren?
All right. It's good to have you here. I know it's a busy time, so thanks for doing this. When we think about recruiting, especially at an institution like LTU, where the term student athlete takes great precedent here. You're preparing young men for life through the lessons learned on the football field, but more importantly in the classroom. Mike Kostoff has a stat that states how schools can recruit you based on GPA. So check this out. If you have a 4.0 GPA, about 94% of the universities can recruit you. A 3.5 GPA, 72% can recruit you. A 3.0, it drops down to 50%. A 2.5, only 21% can recruit you. And if you have just a 2.0 GPA, it falls to just 8% of universities who can recruit you. Do you think enough parents know this? I'm sure you run into this a lot when the kids' grades just don't cut it, no matter how bad you want them.
Yeah. I think kids and parents understand it, but they don't grasp the full reality of it until it hits them in the face as they go through the recruiting process. When early on, they believe that I can overcome this, I can continue to grow as an athlete. As long as I'm a good athlete, they'll take me. And then as they start to get turned down by universities, it's kind of reality.
A bulk of your job all year is obviously recruiting. Now, you were recruited to Central Michigan, but also spent time as a coach and recruiter at several stops, including Michigan Tech, Northern Michigan, and Michigan State University. How was your experience being recruited as a player? And how did that impact how you go about recruiting as a coach?
Well, being recruited as a player, I was mostly recruited Division II and Ivy League, and ended up walking on at Central Michigan after I got after things fell through with the Ivy League. And I was lied to during this process by a couple coaches. It closed some doors for me. So for me, it's opened my eyes to, I always made the promise that I'm going to be brutally honest in the recruiting process. So sometimes that costs us players here at LTU, but I think in the long run, the retention of it for us is good because kids get here and it's exactly what I told them to expect, rather than saying, hey, you're going to start, it's going to be easy for you, we're going to love you, all this stuff. It's painting that
yes.
rosy picture,
yes.
and then they get here and reality hits them and they're not starting, or they have to work harder than they thought. So we are extremely honest through our recruiting process, but I think, like I said, once they get here, the retention level stays higher because there were no expectations set that aren't met.
I mean, it's not easy you are a student athlete, and in every sense of the term, meaning, you know, you have got to manage your time extremely effectively. And, you know, how much of a conversation do you have saying that this is going to be hard?
Yeah, we're very blunt with that as well. We talked to them about that. One of my experiences as a player too was when I finished playing and I didn't have the structure of football and the structure of the academic side of football, was my worst academic semester. So I understand that, and some of these kids that we recruit understand that as well. So even when we give them the allowance to come off of study table, they'll stay on just because they like that structure and it helps them maintain their GPA.
For the parents out there, what are some frequently asked questions that you receive and your advice when those questions come to you?
One of the most common is, what do we do, right? We're lost. This is new to us. How do we get our name out there? How do we, what schools should we look at? What levels should we be looking at? And, my advice is be honest with yourself. You have to evaluate, and seek evaluation that is honest and critical, so they know what levels they should be looking at. Get out to camps, like you mentioned in your intro, to get out to camps, get seen by all levels, Division I, II, NAI, and Division III. Go with those. Identify what school you want, what you want for the next 40 years of your life, right, not just the next 4. Right. So find schools that offer your major and then pursue those schools. Find out what you like, close to home, far away from home, small school, big school, just your environment, and then try to visit 3, 4 of those schools. Don't visit too many. That's kind of the advice I give to all the kids that visit here.
Yeah, and when you say don't visit too many, why do you say that?
It becomes cloudy and colluded in your mind, right? Everything starts to blur together. You're not sure exactly what you like anymore. There's positives about everything. Obviously, we're all selling what we're trying to get you here. We're biased towards us, and other coaches are as well. I think, it's fair. They believe in what they're selling, and we believe in what we're selling. But you got to look at what you need out of it, and what you can contribute, and again, be honest with yourself. Yeah. I've been talking to our guys lately about, have you seen the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yes.
Where he talks about the pinstripes, the New York Yankees distracting people, right?
Yes.
Don't fall for the pinstripes, right? When I first got to one of my schools and I was taking guys on tours, one of the advice I was given by my boss was, when we drive by the field, point to the cross-country ski stuff to the left of the field. Don't let anybody look outside the right side of the bus at the field, because we want them to see this and not this, right? So we're just trying to distract people, or we were at that point trying to distract people. So make sure you're paying attention to what they're not selling as well. If they're not selling an education, go back and question how good their education is. If they're not selling a family atmosphere, why aren't they selling that? If all they're selling you is playing time and the different colored jerseys we wear, the different helmets we wear, okay, what are the benefits of me going to this school?
Yeah. I think in the end, too, you've just got to trust your gut. No matter where it is, your intuition is your little voice inside your head will usually tell you that this feels right, and you should go with that. Exactly. Yeah. What are some rules and information that parents and athletes need to know?
Well, we covered a little bit of the sliding scale with NCAA, the GPA, the ACT. NAI has a little bit different. Ours is a little bit more cut and dry, where there's 3 categories. It's top half of your class, it's a 2.0 overall GPA, and it's a 18 on the ACT. The SAT, with the adjustments that have been going on, is a little bit sliding right now, where I think it's at 860, and it will go up to a 960 next year. But if you've taken it before March of 19, then it would qualify as an 860. And you have to accomplish 2 of those 3 categories. Obviously here at LTU we're a little bit higher, where we're 3.0 and an 18 or 950. For NAI eligibility, those are some of the rules. Obviously NCAA limits the amount of visits you can make, official visits. So, and I think with that in mind of, clouding the picture and just trying to expedite the process, right? NAI does not have an official signing date, so you can sign at any point during the year. We usually celebrate the NCAA's signing date so that our kids can have that recognition in their time in the spotlight and all that stuff. But those are just some of the general rules I can come off the top of my head.
All right, well, as we finish up here, this is Jeff Duvendeck, the head football coach at Lawrence Tech. What's the thing least known about recruiting that you've seen?
Again, I think it goes back to that we don't just recruit athletic ability. You know, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes information gathered through the recruitment process, whether it's talking to the secretary at the high school, the coach at the high school, the athletic trainer at the high school, you know, just other students at the high school. As I walk down the hallway, I'll ask them, hey, do you know Lauren? What kind of student is he? What kind of athlete is he? Is he
terrible?
Does he treat other people with respect?
No.
Things like that. Oh,
Yeah.
Come on, you got to quit being so hard on yourself,
I know,
Lauren. But,
yeah.
but you know, I just want to get perspectives of other people throughout the school and see what they're saying, because obviously, you know, they're going to be on their best behavior when they're around you, but we want to get a grasp of what reality is like for them.
Yeah, schools are making an investment in you, meaning universities, and they're going to talk to a lot of people. So don't burn any bridges out there. You know, be good people, and if you want to play at the next level, you just might get that opportunity. But remember, grades are very important. So I want to thank Jeff Duvendeck for being here. I want to thank Matt Mowry, Scott Bernstein. I want to thank Alan True for all being a part of this early signing day recruiting show. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you got some good insight on some of the best recruits and some of the unsigned recruits who are looking to still find their place to play their college football. We will have a National Signing Day show that will be coming up in early February. But for now, have a happy, happy holiday, and we'll talk to you next year.
This State Champs digital presentation of the football early signing period is presented by Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare.